This year, Garkane Energy is celebrating its 75th anniversary. As a major part of that celebration, we have published a history of the company which we were pleased to give to our members at the annual meetings. To supplement the history, we are also pleased to provide this video, which is produced by our Marketing and Member Services Manager, Neil Brown.
I was in darkness and you brought me light. For centuries, light has been a central theme in art and literature, a thing to be greatly desired and cherished. For most of man's existence, true light was limited to the daylight hours. The feeble substitutes of the night, firelight, oil lamps, or gas, provided limited relief from the encircling gloom of night. By the late 1800s, electricity began to provide true light to dispel the gloom, and in the cities and some larger towns, people began to be freed from the darkness of the evening. For the residents of many rural areas and small towns, there was no such relief. In the mid-1930s, the people of Kane and Garfield counties, stretching from Mount Carmel to Escalante, had no central station electrical system and little prospect of getting it. They might visit friends and relatives in Panguitch or Kanab and marvel at the bright lights, only to come home to darkness. They had lamps, and there might be a generator at the church or a very poor local system in Orderville or Escalante. But there was a world of darkness when night fell. For the housewife, the world was a world of drudgery, a world without electric refrigerators, stoves, washers, dryers, or irons. For rural citizens, it was also a place of informational darkness, without radios to bring news to the area. There was no real way out of this pall of darkness and drudgery for them and hundreds of other rural areas until the establishment of the Rural Electrification Administration in May of 1935. Established first by an executive order by President Franklin Roosevelt and then bolstered and enlarged by Congress, the REA provided both credit and affordable interest rates and the expertise needed to create a rural electric system. Citizens in the area, the Bishops in Bryce Valley, farmers in the Long Valley, and the Syrett family at Ruby's Inn saw the possibilities for their area and began organizing an electric cooperative. The early efforts culminated in the formal organization of Garkane Power on July 8, 1938. The new company was a cooperative, the members working with their neighbors, as they had for decades before in building irrigation systems, to build what they so badly needed. And once built, it was their system, run by their elected directors. The 20 members present at this first meeting also elected officers and directors to set in motion the process of building an electric system. The first directors, 9 men and 3 women, were ordinary citizens, farmers, stockmen, and storekeepers and housewives. But with the technical help of the REA and the leadership of Bob Middleton, their first manager, they borrowed $177,000 and started construction. From diesel generators at Hatch, lines ran south to Mount Carmel and east over the Escalante Mountain to Escalante. By December 19th and 20th, 1939, the moment of turning on the lights had arrived. A big dedication program was followed by the actual lights coming on, one town and one street at a time, followed by a big dance at Tropic. We can little imagine the joy experienced back then as these isolated communities were brought into the modern world and began to enjoy the benefits many urban Americans had taken for granted for years. Garkane's leadership could have kept the system within the original boundaries, but they showed the vision that would characterize Garkane throughout its history. Less than 2 years after the lights came on, they purchased People, Powers, and Light in Wayne County. Under the leadership of George Teasdale Eckersley, that company had strung wire from Torrey to Casherm, but it was a marginal operation at best. World War II delayed the upgrades Garkane promised for the system, but by 1946 the cooperative had been able to upgrade the Wayne system as well as run new lines to Antimony and Boulder. The vision of Garkane's leadership, both under Middleton and his successors Lester Spencer and Reed Burr, led them to continue borrowing money to improve the system and to extend the blessings of electricity to more and more members over the next 20 years. Growth and expansion took vision. It also took more power. After years of struggling to keep up with increased power consumption by expanding their own generating plants and buying power from Utah Power and Light, they decided in 1954 and 55 to take a giant leap of faith to solve the problem. Taking on a big debt for the small system, the hydro plant on the Boulder Mountain was built. When finished in 1958, the plant supplied Garkane's needs and gave it surplus power needed for another bold move forward. This power, supplemented from 1964 on by a seemingly endless supply of very cheap power from Glen Canyon Dam, opened the door for a dramatic expansion of Garkane to the south. Spending large sums for new transmission lines, Garkane was able to reach new markets in Bigwater, the Kanab suburbs, and the Kaibab sawmill. From there, lines were extended to uranium mines and the north rim of the Grand Canyon in Arizona, and also to Short Creek. For almost 20 years after the Boulder plant opened, things were rosy for Garkane. The new southern system underwent rapid growth along the Utah-Arizona border and on Cedar Mountain, where a series of small subdivisions would ultimately add hundreds of new customers. This growth required new lines, but the cooperative had adequate cheap power to meet the rising demand. Most good things don't last forever, and by the mid-1970s, this was proving true for cheap federal power. After the announcement that additional power from Glen Canyon would not be available after 1976, Garkane and the other Utah cooperatives were forced to actively seek an additional power source to satisfy the continuing growth and demand. The ensuing scramble saw a variety of projects, including a large coal plant in Wayne County, come and go without filling the need. Finally, Garkane and the 5 other Utah cooperatives formed their own generation cooperative, Deseret Power. Deseret bought 1/4 of Utah Power and Light's Hunter 2 plant in Castledale, Utah, and then built its own Bonanza plant in Uintah County. With these plants, Deseret could supply all the additional power Garkane needed. The downside was that the Bonanza plant, completed in 1985, was built at high interest costs and produced expensive power, and Deseret was on the edge of financial collapse for its first 10 years of existence. Garkane's leadership struggled with this instability until 1996, when a workout, made possible by a cooperative lending entity, turned the financial millstone into a godsend. Garkane and the other Deseret cooperatives now enjoy some of the lowest wholesale power costs of all the nation's cooperatives. With a long-term power supply in hand, Garkane's leaders were finally able to solve the 3-decade-old battle over the location of the cooperative's office. Using the rebate money received back as a member owner of Deseret, new offices were built in Loa, Hatch, and Kanab, and the Richfield office was closed. With low wholesale power costs, Garkane has been able to expand, bringing on Kanab City and the Colorado City and Hilldale areas into the system, and to build a series of new transmission lines and substations to increase capacity to serve this growth, while returning over $5 million since 1996 in capital credit refunds to the cooperative's member owners. During this period since 1965, Garkane has enjoyed long years of stable leadership. Glenn Willardson served as general manager from 1965 to 1993, during which period the total customers tripled and revenues grew 16-fold. He was replaced by Carl Albrecht in 1993. During Albrecht's 21-plus years at the helm, the cooperative continued to grow, doubling in membership, with revenues and total plant value increasing roughly threefold. During the last 4 decades, Garkane has both expanded and prospered. The favorable resolution of Deseret Power's financial troubles has provided an enviable source for abundant low-cost power. The office relocation issue was settled in the cooperative manner, letting the member owners decide what should be done. Garkane, working with America's 850 other rural electric cooperatives, continues to battle political attacks on the rural electric program, especially on coal-fired generation. Throughout its history, much of Garkane's success has been due to its employees, the men and women who keep the lights on and keep the business operating. Their service and their loyalty have enabled Garkane to maintain affordable, reliable service while staying true to the cooperative principles of member control and providing members a return on their capital contributions over the decades. The economic impact on the region has been enormous. Not only did electricity allow this isolated region to enjoy the benefits others had for years, it has also pumped considerable money into the local economy, over $50 million in salaries in the last 20 years alone. Garkane has, throughout its history, worked not just to lift the darkness and lessen the drudgery of its members, but also to contribute to the quality of life in its communities for the members. It has provided hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years in scholarships to members' children and in donations to local activities and projects. Garkane's board and management pledges to carry the vision shown in these past 75 years forward to continue to serve you, our members. Your support has carried us to success so far, and we ask for your continued involvement and support in our cooperative's efforts into the future. With that help and support, it should be a very bright future.